Pursuant to Internal Revenue Service guidance, be advised that any federal tax advice contained in this program is not intended to be used, and it cannot be used by any person or entity for the purpose of avoiding any tax penalties that may be imposed by the Internal Revenue Service or any other U.S. federal taxing authority or agency, or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any transaction or matter addressed in this show. The opinions expressed by the host and the guests are their own and may not be used as authoritative advice. Any use of this material without the written consent of the host is strictly prohibited.
Welcome back. I am your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer.
Steve, this is our listener question section. What is today's listener's question?
Today's listener's question has to do with who gets to take the kids off on their taxes.
Or when does the IRS come and take them away from you?
The kids or the taxes?
The kids.
They don't want the kids. They want your money. Okay, so and they let you fight over who gets it. But this is, I go to Avvo. I'm a member of this Avvo.com. Avvo.com is a website that has a forum where people can go and ask legal questions to people. Now, everybody in our listener audience can call me and ask me, and I'll be happy to answer
or
your
email
questions.
you. Or
email. But sometimes if you'd like to go to Avvo.com and ask a question to a lawyer, you get a lot of different answers from different lawyers, and it's helpful, I think, because you get questions answered by more than one person, so you get sometimes different perspectives.
That's right. Well, you always want a second opinion.
Well, that's true. And
not always. And you're ugly too. Hello.
Sometimes I do laugh, and sometimes it seems inappropriate, and I'm going to blame all that on my brother Jim, because he sometimes makes me laugh.
And when he comes in here, we're going to give it to him.
Absolutely true. So one of them on Avvo, and again, I've answered lots and lots of questions on Avvo, but the most common question that's asked on Avvo has to do with just this. I'm divorced. We separated. My husband, I have the kids, but my ex wants to take the kids off on the taxes. Can he do that? Who gets that? Who gets that deduction? And it's an important, again, that's the most common question that I get. And so to answer it directly is usually your divorce decree is going to say who gets to take the deduction. Okay, so always read the divorce decree. There's lots in there. A lot of people, they get divorced, they have the decree, they put it in some drawer, and they forget that that's a binding agreement for the rest of at least for the rest of your child. Until
your children are old enough or out of college,
or out of college even. Yeah, you're right, because it goes beyond that. Who's gonna pay for the college? Who's gonna get the deductions? Who's gonna how are they gonna pay for medical expenses? All of that's usually covered in your decree, your divorce decree, and which is just a judgment, and it's an order by the court. And so, because it's an order by the court, if one party is not following it, you can bring up a contempt of court motion in front of the judge and say, "Listen, judge, you told them to do this or her, and they're not doing it. Make them do it," and the judge can make them do it. So that's the first answer. The second one, if it's not covered in a divorce decree, or if you're not yet divorced, and so there isn't a divorce decree, generally the custodial parent has the right to claim the child as a dependent. So this is the parent with whom the child lives for more than half the year. So if they live with you half the year plus one, then you get the deduction. Now, a lot of times there's shared custody, but again, whoever you share with, whoever the child is with more than half the year gets the deduction if it's not covered in the divorce decree. So what happens typically is this: they're divorced, the ex-husband files his taxes and claims the children, because now you have to put the children's Social Security number on your tax form, and they get the deduction. And then the mother will file her taxes, and she'll also claim the deduction, and she'll list the same Social Security numbers. Well, that's the red flag. We talked about how you get audited. Well, this is one way you get audited, right? The red flag is, hey, two people are taking the same Social Security number as a deduction on their taxes, and you can't do that. And so what will happen is that those two returns will be flagged, and the IRS will send you a letter, and they'll ask you to prove where the child, where they live, and then if the child lives with you more than half the year, it should be easy for you to prove that they live with you more than half the year. So I have some, where do they go to school? Have I taken them to the doctor? There's lots of things that occur to prove where the children live. So
it's not always cut and dry. It depends on what the court tells them and who gets the children.
Well, that's the typical divorce decree typically says you get them 1 year, I get them next. You get them an even number of years, I get them an odd number of years. It depends. But again, that's all negotiated at a divorce. So sometimes it's, hey, the father always gets them or the mother always gets that deduction, and that's in the divorce decree. So then then all they have to do is give that to the IRS and say, well, this is what the judge ordered, and so that's who gets it. Again, most people who get a divorce, they don't read it. Even the people that are entitled to the deduction, they don't know that they're entitled because they didn't read the decree. So again, start there. Always start there. And then if the child lives with you, you should prove it. It's easy to prove, that you have custody of somebody.
And if the IRS calls you to wonder why, don't call them back.
That's right. Well, they'll send you a letter and they'll ask you to prove it, and you'll have to prove that because then they will deny the deduction if you don't prove it.
Well, as you say, never call the IRS on your own. It's not a good idea.
I agree with that. Even in this instance where it seems like such a cut and dry thing, it's not always a cut and dry thing, and so you generally need some help. Now that something like that's not even very expensive, but even talk to your
generally there's
lawyer.
A conflict there one way or the other. You got divorced, so what if the other guy's coming after you? It's better to be protected.
It does seem odd though that this is the way that people fight after a divorce about who gets the deduction. You've already fought all these years about this stuff, and now you're fighting about a deduction. So
that's what I mean.
So if you have a problem, if you're having just this problem, call me. My telephone number is 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com.
We're here at AM 560, The Answer, on Sundays at 5. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.